Okay, let's dive right in. We're going to tackle one of the biggest, most important questions any founder faces. How do you prove people want your product before you sink a ton of time and money into building it? You don't need a splashy launch, you don't need a press release. What you need is a process. I mean, just think about it for a second. This right here, this is the nightmare scenario, isn't it? You pour your heart and soul into building something amazing, you hit the launch button, and then crickets. It's a really painful, really expensive story. And honestly, it happens all the time in the startup world.
But here's the thing, it's totally avoidable. That's what this explainer is all about. We're going to give you a straightforward, practical framework to figure out if your idea is a good one from day one. We'll walk you through how to find those first true believers and build real momentum before you even think about writing code.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with that big fear, then we'll get into the huge difference between real demand and just, well, buzz. From there, we'll cover the first practical steps you can take, how to turn those early signals into solid proof, and finally, how to wrap it all up in a story that gets investors excited.
So let's get one thing straight right off the bat. Proving demand before you launch has nothing to do with marketing. It's not about making noise or getting your name out there. It's about creating this quiet, powerful early momentum, a feeling that the market is actually pulling you forward because you're onto something real.
And that leads us to this massive mindset shift. You know, when investors are looking at a brand new company, they're not looking for buzz. They're looking for something way deeper, something much more valuable. What they're really looking for is belief.
Let's really break down this difference between just curiosity and actual commitment. Buzz, that stuff on the left, it's cheap. Likes, a bunch of email signups, website traffic, it's all pretty shallow. But belief over on the right, that takes effort. Someone offering to test a buggy prototype, or taking a meeting, or spending real time giving you feedback, that shows they are invested. That right there is gold.
And please don't think for a second you can trick experienced investors with vanity metrics. They've seen it all, literally thousands of times. They can smell the difference between 1,000 people who are kind of curious and 10 people who are deeply, deeply committed to solving a problem.
So the whole game is about finding and demonstrating pull. Pull is that feeling. It's undeniable. It's when you're not just pushing your idea out into the world is actively pulling it out of you. It's people leaning in, asking you questions, basically showing you that their pain is so real, they're desperate for a better way.
Okay, so that all sounds great, but how do you actually find that pull? Let's get super practical now and talk about the very first things you should be doing, way before you're thinking about building anything.
It all starts right here with these 3 steps. 1, just talk to people. Seriously, not pitches, just conversations. Find the people who are living and breathing the problem you want to solve. 2, and this is so important, listen to the exact words they use and then use that language right back at them. It builds instant rapport. And 3, make it incredibly easy for them to say yes to a tiny next step, some small, easy commitment to keep the conversation going.
And remember, this is not a numbers game. You are not trying to reach hundreds of people. You're trying to get deep, meaningful insight. I promise you, one single conversation that uncovers a core truth about your customer's pain is worth more than 1,000 random people signing up for a waitlist.
So once you start having these conversations and collecting these little signals, the next big challenge is figuring out what's real. You have to learn how to cut through the polite, oh, that's interesting feedback, and find the actual hard proof of demand.
And the key to doing that is to look for what we call micro-commitments. A micro-commitment is any small action where someone invests their own resources. Usually it's their time or their reputation. It's the action that separates, that sounds like a cool idea, from, okay, I'm in, let's do something.
So what does this look like in the real world? Well, are they willing to play with a clunky, barely working prototype? Will they give you access to their workflow or some sample data? Will they sign a letter of intent? How about this one? Will they offer to introduce you to their boss? Every single one of these actions is a signal. It says, I believe in this enough to spend my own capital, my time, my reputation to help move it forward.
And to get these kinds of commitments, you absolutely do not need a finished product. In fact, you shouldn't have one yet. The whole point is to build the absolute minimum thing you can, a sketch, a clickable prototype, even just a PDF that's designed for one purpose and one purpose only, to learn something new.
All right, this is where it all comes together. Once you've gathered all these conversations, these signals, these micro-commitments, you now have the raw material for the most powerful tool you have as a founder, a believable story. It's time to turn that whole validation journey into a narrative that makes your idea feel inevitable to investors.
So instead of just pitching your idea, you tell the story of your discovery. I mean, look at this example. It doesn't say we have a genius idea. It says we did the homework, we listened, the market literally told us what the problem was and what to build. A story like that just screams discipline and real customer insight.
And that right there is the punchline. When you lead with this journey, you're not just pitching a theory, you're presenting a case that's built on cold, hard evidence. You're showing investors that the demand is already there, and you're the one who found it.
And all of a sudden, even without a single dollar in revenue, you have a pipeline. You can actually show investors a list of companies that are ready to test your MVP, or signed letters of intent, or even users who are actively helping you build a feature. This isn't some wish list of future customers. It's a list of your first customers.
So let's wrap up with this one core idea. The best startups, the ones that really succeed, they don't leave demand up to chance. They're not just crossing their fingers and hoping for the best. They are methodical. They're intentional. They prove it step by step, right from day one.
So I'm going to leave you with this one simple question. Forget about the website, forget about the launch plan for a second. What is the one single conversation you can have this week with one potential user that could give you your very first genuine signal of demand? Because that's where it all begins.